Good evening, everyone. If I could have the city council candidates come up and be seated, please.
I think I'm here.
Good, yes, you're here.
In front of my wall.
Good. Was it Trey that they didn't know? Is Trey here? Is Trey here?
I don't know.
It's Trey or Matt here. Oh, that's right. It's Trey or Matt.
Do I need to take my symbol off because it's advertising?
I need Trey or Matt. Are they here? Trey or Matt?
How are you? I'm Emily. Nice to meet you too. You seem so late. I was like, I'm gonna need to feel like oh, so you're good. Yeah,
Okay, so what I'm going to do, Trey's not here, so we're just going to go ahead and go. I'm going to say a couple little words, and then when I just say your name, just kind of put a little wave. Of course, your names are there, but whatever.
Are these on or do you got to turn them on?
Don't turn those on until they ask you, until you're. Yeah. You got that, Emily? Yeah, hit the button at the bottom. Here, there's a little, right here, this little gray one. Okay. There's a little gray one, and then look for the green. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Susan Linton, and I am the Director of Operations at the West Virginia Daily News. I want to thank all of you for joining us this evening for the Rodsford Mayor and City Council Forum. We're looking forward to hearing from all the candidates and their visions for our community. I kindly ask that everyone maintain a respectful and courteous atmosphere throughout the evening, ensuring that each candidate has the opportunity to speak and be heard. At this time, I would like to introduce a few members of the West Virginia Daily News team. First, our circulation manager, Heather Feltz. She's there in the back, there when you came in the building. If you don't subscribe to the West Virginia Daily News, stop by and see her this evening before she leaves. If you subscribe this evening, you will be getting a gift from Heather, so you definitely want to take advantage of that. I would like to introduce Ashley Dixon and Topher Mintz. They're here this evening, part of the Daily News team, just support staff for the evening. At this time, I'd like to introduce our editor, Rebecca Stoniker, if you could wave. She will be guiding us through the evening. Last but not least, I'd like to introduce Dr. Scott Reslin, publisher and owner of the West Virginia Daily News. Thank you again for being here. Let's have a respectful and productive discussion this evening. At this time, I'll go ahead and introduce the candidates. Trey's not here this evening. We expected him to be here, so he may pop in here late. I'm not sure what's going on with him this evening. But the council candidates here this evening are Emily White, Matt Bergman, Eric Mercer, and Monique Melania. And I'll turn it over to the moderator.
Good evening, candidates. My first topic for you all is many citizens have expressed concern over rising water bills and electric bills. What are some ways that you feel that those concerns could be addressed? Candidate White.
Testing. Okay. I'm not used to having a microphone.
I know that it is concerning for everybody. Honestly, I'm not really sure yet because I'm on the Parks and Rec committee, so I'm not on the committee yet. And so when it comes to stuff like that, we're not in full control of that. If there's anything that we could do to like help with that, though, I'm all for it and would help with that, whether it be committee or looking for other ways to get money for that so that maybe the prices aren't high. But I'm not really sure yet what we can do yet.
Hi. As far as all that goes, I'm with Emily. I don't really know the complexities of it, and but I imagine that we can't be the only community in America that's dealing with infrastructure problems like this. I would be really shocked if we were. So I think probably my first tack, if I was getting to this, would be doing some research into other communities our size and maybe in a similar situation or maybe a situation 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and see what they did and see if it worked. Because I think, again, I don't think we can dig ourselves out of this hole alone. So I think maybe looking for other communities that have been where we are and see what they did, what worked, how they figured this stuff out, and then maybe go from there. So.
Hello. Talking about the water rates, we are the 4th highest in the state of West Virginia, and that comes from the Public Service Commission. The way that we can take care of that is, one, try to renegotiate with Lewisburg because they're the ones in charge of selling us the water. The other thing is the city council and the mayor has to petition the Public Service Commission to lower the water rates, and it can be done by just simply asking for it and petitioning for it. And I think that we get a new administration in here. I think that's one thing we will work on, because when you're paying almost $400 a month for water and sewer, that's somebody's house payment or car payment, and I think it's kind of really too high. When a 92-year-old woman has a $200 water bill and she's by herself, that's ridiculous. Our seniors are having enough trouble trying to make it on Social Security as it is, and to have a high water bill each month is just outrageous. So yes, we can change it, and we will change it. Thank you.
Hi. To address that question, I've often looked into the water bill issue. I think that we could first look at the way we charge for, like, the prices are high, right? And then I hear there's also the subcharges for fire and law enforcement protection. Maybe we could analyze those sub breakdowns of the bill, put those funds towards something else that the city might need, such as infrastructure, and that way we can save some costs on the water bill as a whole. Another, Eric had mentioned, it's pretty monotonous in how to lower those bills. You have to, do some legislative work, and so that's something we can always explore. Another issue is that the water pipes, we have issues with that as well, and water boil advisories, and so something that I would want to look into is when we start to figure out how to perhaps redirect the charges that come with the water bill, we can look in fixing those water systems.
The next concern many citizens have raised is Another concern many citizens have raised is a lack of transparency between officials and the public. What is one way that you would address those concerns? Yes.
One of the biggest things that I will say that I think if they want to know more about what's going on in Roncevert is to attend the meetings. Because I feel like if they have questions, they're definitely answered. I don't feel like anything's really being hidden from anybody. I think it's on public record. Nothing that I know of, anyway, that's being hidden from anybody. So if they get more participation, I feel very confident the city would answer the questions that they want to know.
Oh, okay. I think this touches on Another kind of larger thing is just the amount of time and budget that it takes to do anything. It's just the simple act of taking minutes and putting them in a website or posting them to Facebook, things that you would think would be really easy and simple, actually takes hours of time to do, and you have to have people, and you want to compensate those people, or you want to have volunteers. So what I would do is try and work with people that are complaining or upset or worried about lack of transparency, and try and get them involved and get them on committees, and maybe start a group of people. I don't know how official it has to be, but maybe get somebody locked in to volunteer their time to go to a meeting and to just summarize it and maybe post it on a Facebook site or something like that. I don't necessarily think that needs to come from the actual paid people on staff, again, just because I think it's we don't really have the money. We don't have money to pay for water, so it's hard to pay for kind of getting the message out there. So yeah, I would work on finding people in the community that were willing to volunteer their time to be that sort of go-between between the people on the city council and the people out there in Facebook land. So.
Okay, you were talking about transparency between the public and the local officials. Problem is there ain't none. The reason I say that is because I've been to a couple of the meetings. I'll say a couple, actually, probably 4 or 5 this year. But you can express whatever you want to the city council right now, and it goes through one ear and out the other. They don't care. And on top of that, they don't respect you. How can you run a city and not be respected for something you have a question about? If you have a question about something going on in your city or even the city that you work in, and it gets ignored, or being told that, oh, let me explain this to you at a lower level, come on. Transparency is going to you and say, hey, I got an issue. Can we help take care of it? And you explain to me, yes, we can actually do it. Let's see what we can do to get it done and not just ignore it. So there is no transparency in this day and age with the city now. So that's why I say if we want transparency, get some people in there that cares for this city with their heart and not just with their pocketbook. So thank you.
That's a really great. Thank you. I'm going to have to kind of echo what Matt said in terms of just getting more people involved. In terms of transparency, I think that it would be a good idea to have more subcommittees, more volunteer, like Economic Development Committee. You could have Housing and Transportation Committees. I think it would be a good way for the city to create opportunity for folks to be involved on some level, just so that they can have their concerns voiced and at the forefront of issues and bring it to council and try to work it that way. I have, I'm still learning the issues that are going on in the city, and so I think that would be a good start.
Okay. We've already touched somewhat on infrastructure, but another issue that has been raised by some citizens is the roadways and multiple potholes that they must drive around. What are your thoughts and concerns from your own standpoints regarding that issue?
Again, I feel like I keep repeating myself when it comes to certain things. I think it depends on what we actually have control over. I know when it comes to infrastructure, it's kind of divided in 2 or 3 different ways. It depends on what streets we're talking about. I mean, are they state-run, county-run, private? I can say that I live in downtown Ronceverte. I live right here, and I know that when there's snow and stuff, they're on it. Like, I feel like they do a good job when it comes to stuff like that. I mean, I agree when it comes to getting more people involved to see about other things that we can do for that. But again, I think it just depends on like what we're in control over.
I think this one too kind of goes back to you're kind of limited with your budget and your time allocation and how many people you have in the administration and how many people you hire to run the kind of nitty gritty under or behind the scenes sort of stuff. As far as how to approach that or what to do about that, I think we just have to keep on doing what we're doing, which is getting more people involved and getting more businesses downtown, getting more revenue, getting more people, and the more people, then the more money that you get going into an area. And then the more money that you have, not only the more money, the more attention that you have. I mean, if you're going to, the county or the state, and you're saying, hey, we have these numbers. Look at how many people are coming through this area, and look at how many people are moving to this area. And hey, governor, look at what's going on in this region, and look at how crappy our roads are. Like, look at how these city streets, look at what's going on, and don't you want to be a part of building this community, this area? And part of that, if you have people coming in from Virginia and people day tripping to the Greenbrier Valley, do you want them to, their impression of West Virginia is crappy roads? That's something. So I think kind of just redirecting people's attention. Again, I don't think it's going to happen overnight. I think it's a thing that's just going to take time and focus. But that would be my answer to that question.
I've got a question. How many people live up Pocahontas Avenue? How many people get a massage every time you go down Pocahontas Avenue? How many people need alignment going down Pocahontas Avenue? Come on. Route 63 runs Greenbrier Avenue all the way to Alderson. So that's the state's responsibility, which, if there's a pothole, you can call the state. They'll come and fix it. Roncevert, we have no money. We cannot afford to pay to fill in the holes. We can file for grants from the state to be able to fill these holes. But right now, to have somebody come in from out of state that has semi-perfect roads come down Pocahontas Avenue, and you're going, I driving down the road. So how are we going to fix that? File for grants. How to file for grants? Get someone to write a grant, take it to the state, and say, hey, we need this. And that's the way to get our roads fixed. Thank you.
I'm going to echo what Eric had said, and it's the idea of doing grants, maybe getting that on the forefront of our agenda in terms of fixing these potholes. The pothole that, when we talk about it, there's one pothole that sticks out, and it's right in front of that automotive shop. When you turn your first right, you can't escape it. So yes, I definitely have been thinking about this, and I want to find a way to write grants. It also takes some legislative lobbying to get folks at the Senate level to give us funding for these potholes in the roadways. But that's something that I would want to help and contribute with, is grant writing.
What is one goal each of you have for the revitalization of the downtown area?
I've seen a lot of growth in Roncevert in the past few years, and I would like to see that continue to grow. Getting more people involved. I think that we've all said getting people involved is important for everything we've talked about tonight, and we need to see that. We need to see everybody is concerned, everybody has questions, but the more people that get involved with stuff, the easier it'll be to get things done. So just to see more people get involved with everything.
The main goal that I have is fixing the Rexall building. Me and a business partner of mine took that big project on a year and a half ago now. But I think that sort of same vein, since we've been getting in the project, we've met so many people in the area that are also buying these old, sometimes condemned buildings that nobody will touch, that make no sense to borrow hundreds of thousands of dollars to bring back unless you really, really care about the community and where it's going and what it's going to look like in, again, 5 to 10 years. So what I would do is honestly what I'm doing right now. I would just keep doing that, and maybe on a slightly larger scale, but meeting people, finding people, talking with people, asking people that might want to join in building Roncevert, building downtown. It doesn't take much. to do. You know, even if you don't have assets or money, you can still, you know, if you like, I'm looking for 3 people to partner with me to have businesses downstairs, and that's part of what I want to do is find people and help hook them up with opportunities. If not with me, then other people I know in the area that are doing similar stuff. And yeah, that's my answer.
Okay. I think honestly, and that's one thing I will say about, you know, Ronsford now, they are on the up on revitalization, sorry. Gentleman here just stated he's fixing up the Rexall building. Trent has fixed up the old Wild Child building. John Hurt's coming in to put a motorcycle shop in beside the Sportsman. Mr. Withrow has the Sportsman, did a wonderful job with that. And there's a hot dog place next door to it, a bakery, I believe, Mr. Withrow, isn't that true? A restaurant. And then, of course, we have that new Mexican restaurant. So the more that we improve the buildings, like this gentleman said, the more we're going to get businesses in, which will help with some of the financial stress that Ronsford has. But in order to do that, we do need to fix up them buildings. We need to find out who owns those buildings and ask them to fix them up. And like during this one of the city councils, they have what they call a home rule, that if they feel that a property is dilapidated, they will go to that owner and ask them to fix it. If not, Ronsford will fix it. If we had the money, then we'll fix it and charge them for it, but at least it's getting done. So I can honestly say right now we are on the up and up on getting Ronsford to look better so we can bring people in. This gentleman here, I believe you guys are from Colorado, or your partners?
My partner is, I'm from Oklahoma, but I've been here for 6 years, but this is my 4th time moving here in the past 15 years, so I can't get away.
Well, you know, I mean, this guy, you know, I think he actually deserves a round of applause because he is stepping up, and his people from Colorado stepping up, and we thank you for that. So if, like he said, if he can get more partners in there, that's the way Ronsford's going to actually be a beautiful town again. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I've been thinking about how to make it more aesthetically pleasing downtown. I think when I first moved to Ronceverte in November, I just saw the river, I saw the railroads, I saw like what it can be. It seems like it's very advantageous to Lewisburg because it has that outdoor water component. In terms of my first impression when I got here, the thing that stood out most is just the aesthetics. Like, for example, the home confinement was the first thing you saw when you came into town. And I thought, well, maybe we can conjoin that with the sheriff's department. Kind of the things that are displayed within the city shape the vibe of it. And so just things I've been thinking about is how could we decide and choose businesses that would create that ambiance. My biggest concern is the dilapidated buildings, maybe coming up with some sort of ordinance where folks have to step up and make sure that that those buildings are within code. And then the last thing is stuff for more youth. I know that 25% of young adults, middle school, high school students are in Ronceverte. There's buildings that could be a Boys and Girls Club. I just want to see more family activities within the city in general. Thank you.
Some citizens have questioned if anything will ever be done with the train station. And while you may not be able to see into the future as to what will eventually be done, what are your thoughts on what could be done with this train station?
I'm not sure. I think we're all really excited that Ronceverte can make those decisions now that they have it. I don't know. There could be many things if they get it to where it needs to be. I mean, it could be something for tourists, a museum, something just to bring people down to have something to do in Ronceverte, stuff like that.
I kind of similar with just the whole building of businesses and community and stuff. I would love to see either the city renovate it, or if they don't have the capacity to find somebody that can and that's willing to, into some sort of commercial or restaurant or something. Just spaces that like Monique was saying, that kind of add to what we want Ronceverte to be. That being said, I got real excited when Amtrak mentioned that they were going to start doing more stops in small towns and do multiple runs, like from DC to wherever through here, Chicago. Thank you. And then I don't know if that's stalled. I mean, obviously they have to figure out how to make money. Everybody's trying to figure out how to make money right now. But I think the coolest thing that could ever happen there, just dreaming, is that, we have spots that people can come, and when they get the 15 minutes break on the train, they can go, get a sandwich or see our town, and then maybe decide to, make a weekend trip of it. So, all right.
Well, as we all know, it's been in the paper that the city of Ronceverte has inquired the train station. It's also been put in the newspaper and on Facebook that the city would like to make part of that train station a museum, which is a wonderful idea. There is so much history here in Ronceverte, from the log yard where they used to float the logs down the river. They got pictures of that. There's a gentleman that has all kinds of many years of history of the city of Ronceverte. Also, for the older folks here, if they can remember, JFK, John F. Kennedy, made a stop right here in Ronceverte at that train station. So I believe with that train station, with the city of Ronceverte having that train station, there's so much potential that we can do with that. One is the museum. That's a wonderful idea that the city had. It's a good place to put it. The other thing, maybe even have, like he said, a little eatery in there. Amtrak, I took Amtrak back to Colorado, 5 years ago. We coming back from Chicago, we heard about Alderson. We heard about Hinton. We heard about Fort Springs. We heard about White Sulphur. Nothing mentioned of Ronceverte on that train. And so I'm sitting there telling people, hey, Ronceverte is actually a really beautiful town if you get to looking at it. We have a river. I mean, there's just so much history that we have here that people don't know about. And so I believe, and I applaud the city for that, to getting that train station. Now we just got to make it nice, get some painting done. And for Christmas, have a train station or a Christmas at the train station. I think that'd be a great thing for the city.
I actually was going to say the same thing. I can't tell if this is on or not. I'm so close to it. All right. So I was thinking like a seasonal train station. So how many folks have done railway bikes? Anyone? Show of hands. Okay, I see a few. Okay, so so I was thinking we could maybe bring in tourism. It's basically like an e-bike that runs along the railway, and you can charge more for out-of-county residents, maybe charge lower for in-county, do something along that line where it can go, maybe take you to the Greenbrier River Trail. That's something that's always fun, and folks haven't tried. I recommend it. Like Eric said, maybe a Christmas time holiday train ride, and it would give you a tour about, all through Ronceverte, the types of trees, where the river, just educating people of the area. That would be sweet. But kind of use the railway. My point is to have it more seasonal and multi-use, where you're not just banking on one idea. And you're bringing in revenue for your community. Oh, there the mic goes. Okay, I'm done.
What are your thoughts on the extended amount of time that the golf course seems to be taking on the island?
We discussed that a lot in the Parks and Rec Committee, and I know Gateway, which is a business in downtown Ronceverte, has done a really good job with that, and I know a lot of people are really excited about the putt-putt course. And right now they're looking at middle to late June to having that done. And I think at the last meeting, trying to remember, was it 15 holes had concrete in them ready to go. And it's really cool. It's going to be like Ronceverte themed. And I know a lot of people, including like my kids and stuff, are excited about that. But I think everything takes a little bit of time. But I think Gateway's done a really good job with that.
I don't really know anything about that. I know that Gateway's doing it. I know that it's been forever, but I don't know what sort of snags they've run into. I don't know. I know personally trying to get the Rex all fixed up, that's just been a nightmare as far as finding contract labor, finding people that'll show up, finding people that'll do what you ask them to do. I know for a fact, again, I've just kind of became an overnight expert in that over the past year and a half, but this region has a really tough time with trades. I mean, it's hard to find people that will do stuff for you and do it well and do it for a reasonable amount of money. So I imagine that that's probably what's going on there. Again, I have no actual idea why it's taking as long as it has, but I imagine it's not because of a bad actor or because of some nefarious plot to keep us from having mini golf sooner rather than later.
I personally think the putt-putt's a wonderful thing. I remember as a kid there was a putt-putt golf up where David Lemons's shop is. It was successful. I mean, every weekend you'd see kids up there playing putt-putt. Do you remember? How many of y'all remember that? Yeah, but this one was at where David Lemons has his shop, and it was ran by a gentleman out of Ronsford, but it was a full 18-hole course, and it was a wonder, but they shut it down, and then David went in there and put his shop in there. So I think with the golf course being down there, Gateway Industries is a wonderful opportunity for people with special needs. Of course, they do a lot of hard work, and they do a lot for the community. But to have that golf course, I think it's going to be a wonderful thing.
I've heard really good things about the golf course coming up, and I'm excited to see it. I don't know the semantics or too much in depth about it, but what I could speculate is that there's a lot of moving parts, right? Because it's going to be a big operation. So whether that's marketing, getting it out there, some sort of business management, or labor, like Matt had mentioned, and so I would look at those components first in terms of, okay, what needs to be done. Maybe the underlying cause could just be folks needing help or not knowing what resources to tap into.
Please describe one of your primary goals for your term if you're elected.
I decided I don't like going first. A primary goal of doing something like this. Just to help with the growth of Ronsford, because I've been involved in Ronsford for several years, and I used to always think it had a lot of potential for like a long time. And then I feel like the past few years we're seeing a lot of growth. We're seeing businesses come, they're staying, more people are coming down to Ronsford. Lots of kids come to the Island Park. That's always been my favorite part of Ronsford is the Island Park. Seeing the relationships getting stronger between like the different committees and communities. Like little leagues are getting better with the city and everything like that. So I guess my primary goal is just to continue with that, to see all of us like get together to get these things done and to continue the growth of Ronsford.
I get really excited thinking about the Rails to Trails, bringing back the old railroad between Lewisburg and Ronsford and turning it into a trail. I think that is just personally gets me super hyped. And I know that there's actually a way forward with that. And I know that the Parks and Rec committee, everybody's been working on it forever. I think I would, I'm a Eagle Scout, and I have built so many trails for so many Eagle projects for my friends and everything like that. So I just get super hyped about the idea of building a trail through woods and an old railroad train track. That kind of leads me back into just generally in a large scale, what I'm excited about, what I would focus on is recreation and using downtown, using the Island Park, just doing what we can. Again, we don't have much money, if much at all, so doing what we can to get citizens, community members excited to build up and develop this property that the city has. I mean, we have the river, we have endless amounts of forest on hills. We have the trail. So I think that's where I see Ronsford go. And again, it's going to take a long time, but I think as far as what's going to bring people into town, what's going to get people excited about visiting, is things like a trail that goes up to Lewisburg and back down. You might need an e-bike probably to get up the hill, but then also, we went and we spent a week on the river. We spent a day up and down. There were if there were hookups for RVs and stuff on city property down there by the river, that we can get families, young people in, people that get excited for the area, and again might want to move here, might want to start businesses here, or kind of pitch in with what we've already got going on. So,
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
What is one goal that you have for your term if you're elected?
Well, the one goal that I have is, if I'm elected, is to diligently work with the mayor, the city council, to bring back Ronsford, to make it to where a place that we all can get along together and every voice could be heard. No matter if it's negative or positive, we all got to take it in. But my main goal is just to be able to work with the city officials as a city council member and just make Ronsford good. And, with the business people, just to have a good relationship with them. I think that's a good thing to do.
We've touched on a few issues: infrastructure, tourism, businesses. Those things are all passionate areas for me. I think if I had to pick one, I would want to build Ronsford to be more family-friendly, youth-friendly, have more activities, and that way it sustains the long-term growth of the community. I mean, families are here to stay for a while if they wanted to plant roots and raise our economic activity and level. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. We'll now be taking a few questions from the audience. I would ask audience members to please raise your hand if you have a question for our candidates.
Hello. Please state your name and who your question is for.
My name is Denise Sizemore, and this is for Mr. Eric Mercer. In the last 4 years, what have you done personally to help and better Ronsford?
Well, for what I've done is a lot behind the scene. I do help a elderly lady, help her with her yard. In fact, she asked me last week to cut down a tree, and I don't charge her for it. The other thing is trying to get a voice. I moved here from Colorado 5 years ago, but I grew up here in Ronsford. And I seen what Ronsford was and what could be. So yes, I haven't been at Make It Shine Day because I do have a job. I go to work at 10 o'clock at night, which I'll be doing again tonight. And then I get home and I go and I take care of elderly people. A lot of people don't know that about me. They think I'm some hard-head knucklehead, but the more I do for people outside of the city of Ronsford and inside the city of Ronsford is going to bring people in here to know that, yes, our city council members and our mayor do care about helping other people and our citizen. So what I've done for the city of Ronsford is I've done for the people. And it's just something that I don't go out and gloat about because, as the Bible says, do not gloat. Because God does not want you to be praised. It's for His word, not mine.
Thank you. State your name and who your question is for.
My name is Joel Duffett. I guess I'm going to direct it towards Mr. Bergman. I've listened to you talk a lot about bringing businesses back in here, attracting businesses. We actually moved here in 21. We brought our business, and we do not feel welcome at all. There's been several articles written about every other business opening, shutting down, going, leaving, whatever. Neighborly Pest Control purchased the lot on the Ronsford 219 Hill, and we have been providing services that are needed around here, as you said, in the trades. And we have almost no recognition at all about when we opened, about what we do, We've been to the city council meetings. We were told that the city's going to take our land. We were not too excited about that, so we got involved. I guess my question is, how are you going to practice what you preach? Because you sure haven't been.
How so? I haven't been on the city council before.
Not you personally, but the city sure hasn't been.
Oh, how is the city going to change that if I were to be elected? Is that the
And
question?
yeah, and how are we going to include everybody's business, not just the ones that are, touristy?
Gotcha. Okay, great. I would say that, again, I think it goes back to, I don't think that the city council really has the budget or time or to focus on stuff like that. I mean, honestly, haven't heard of anything that the city's done marketing-wise for businesses in the area. I don't think they have a marketing committee or anything like that. So I don't know what I would do differently other than practice or preach what I practice or keep practicing what I practice, which is trying personally to be as welcoming and accepting of whoever I can be and whatever businesses in the area are there. I don't think any community gets better by excluding anybody for any reason. I don't think that othering anybody, this is actually personal for me, is that I don't think it is very nice to look at somebody and say, because of the way you look, because of the way they act, because of the, what you believe in or don't believe in, that, you're out, you're not a part of this. So just if I'm on city council, I think I would continue to do what I do in my personal life, which is make sure that everybody feels accepted and at the very, very least not othered. So I'm sorry that sounds like you feel that way. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we're on the 219 Hill, so I just wanted to clarify, there was a push by the city, whether it was public or not public, to obtain those businesses and move. It wasn't beautiful is what we were told. It wasn't a beautiful entrance to Roncevert. And some of those businesses did move, like Hedrick's Customs, and had to go away for a while and try and move back when there was another opportunity. We're still there, right? We're waiting for an answer to be like, okay, when does this drainage go in so we can build? We don't want to look ugly. We've been asking this for 3 years, and there's still no answer.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just say I have absolutely no idea the intricacies behind that or what's going on, but.
State your name and who your question is for, please.
My name is Kay Schaefer, and it's also for Mr. Bergman. You have mentioned several times that the city does not have the funding to do things. How can they afford attorneys out of Charleston to take away the building and sue the American Heritage Music Hall?
So this is another question that I have absolutely no idea. I'm not on the city council. I really don't. I've only heard of this stuff through Facebook peeps. I've seen arguments on that, but I don't take anything that I see on Facebook as anywhere near truth. So I don't know is my easy question or answer to that one. Is that I don't
But
know.
if you're saying they don't have the money to fix and do things they need to do,
Yeah.
how can they afford, and why would they want to pay a lawyer? Who's paying for that?
Yeah, I don't know. Just because I don't know if they have a lawyer, how much they're paying the
they have a
lawyer, if the
lawyer.
lawyer's volunteering. I have absolutely no idea.
Can I step in on that question, Ms. Kay?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, what I know about the American Heritage Music Hall was it was a very adamant and very vital part of this city where people would go and enjoy themselves and dance and just have a good time. There's been some dispute about the property of the American Music Heritage Hall to the building. And as far as having the attorneys, the city lost their attorney because that attorney went to a judge, and then they've lost all other councils that was involved in that. But again, Roncevert doesn't have the money now to afford, which I'm not on the budget. I don't know the budget, but I know what I've read, that Roncevert's broke. So honestly, I think as far as having the budget to fight the American Heritage Music Hall, the city ought to step up and just help the American Heritage Music Hall to get back the way it was and stop the nonsense.
Thank you, Eric. State your name and who your question is for, please.
My name is Autumn Armbruster, and my question is for each one of the candidates sitting at the table. My question is how would each one of you candidates change the way that businesses who have been in Ronceverte for years, some like Martin & Jones, Greenbrier Better Living, Johnny's, the businesses that have been staples in Ronceverte, how would each one of you include those businesses in the meetings, in the decisions, in the choices? That's the question. Now, what I have to say about that is some of those business owners do not live within our city limits, so therefore they are not allowed to vote, from my understanding, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, for our city council, the city that represents where our business is. How do you plan to address the concerns that each one of those businesses have regarding sidewalks, regarding infrastructure, regarding revenue, regarding what's going on at the bottom of Ronceverte Hill, because that in turn affects our revenue? I feel like none of the voices are heard of those business owners. I feel like none of those business owners who have again been staples in this community, Greenbrier Better Living, since 1996, Kester and Marie Erskines started that business, along with 15 other businesses. That is a nonprofit business whose proceeds go directly back into the community in which you, this city council, represents. No one speaks about that. We speak about, and no disrespect, sir, I don't know your name, who's buying the Rexall building, who's opening these new businesses, who's doing this, that, and the third. They have been here. Mr. Jack at Martin & Jones, the Erskines, Johnny, Jason Hedricks. Granted, he did get a great location. That was a blessing. All blessings come in disguise sometimes, I guess you should say. But he still had to relocate and set his business down and find an opportunity to come back into Ronceverte, the town and city that he loves. None of these stable businesses are ever being spoken about or addressed. It's the new money, the new businesses, the new things. I want to know how the four of you individually would choose to incorporate the staple businesses that have helped build Ronceverte, how you take their concerns into consideration, their wants and their needs.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. I'll start. So I guess a couple things, and I really appreciate you sharing that. And I took some notes. I guess a couple things that came to mind is either getting the public works or the planning department to get the citizens, and I hear you say a lot of folks aren't within city limits, either virtually including them or getting folks together to either at a city meeting to address their concerns, but maybe doing something along the lines of putting, like, identifying key areas that everyone is concerned with, putting stickers, and then kind of showing, okay, picking the topics that are most important. That's like something that comes to mind, is just kind of taking a step. It's not an answer per se, but it's taking a step in the right direction of identifying what that is. The second thing is that I hear you say that there's not a lot of recognition of all businesses, and you might not be the only one that's experiencing that. So my solution would be to do a chamber mixer, have small businesses get together, network with each other, if that way they can build up. And then I think that's, and then maybe doing like a small business development center, like business building and teaching folks how to start a business, because that's a skill that, you know, if you want to go into business, your community should teach you how to do that. So that's pretty much it. Thank you.
My view on that is the businesses that are been here and have been here has been the heart and soul of Ronceverte. I mean, you take Johnny Morgan. You know, that's Barbara Morgan's son. That store's been there and been a vital opportunity for this city, which at one time the city used to buy the gas from Mr. Johnny Morgan. And then you got D&J Bump Shop down there who works on all the cars. He's been down there since I was a kid, and he does such good work. The thrift store has been there for 30 years, 32 years. You know, they got the pest control come in. Okay, you guys don't have a voice as of right now because it's not being heard. The way to get that done, come to the meetings, and I'll guarantee if I'm elected to be city council, you will be heard. And I will do everything that I can to make sure the mayor, whoever's either sitting or going to be elected, we're going to work together and give you guys a voice. You know, the way it happens is it's up to the municipality who can come down and vote. You can look that up. It's on the state. If the city of Ronsford goes and puts a new ordinance stating that business owners can vote because they have a business in the city, it can be the ordinance, and it will happen. You take I'm sorry, David here, who's got the bar. Where do you live, sir? Or Dan? Sorry, Dan Withrow. Where do you live? Are you in the city limits? Well, okay. Right. So do you have a voice besides being next to the city hall? By showing up, right? By going to the meetings? Right. Okay. If it's okay, so going back to being recognized, just show up and I'll guarantee you'll have a voice.
Thank you.
So I think I understand the question. What I would do to help businesses feel like they're getting their just desserts or getting a voice, you know, for everything they've done for the community. As city council, I just personally and politically, I think the best thing that government can do is get out of the way and make sure that people are doing things safely, that they are doing things. You know, you want the city inspector to come in and to check to make sure that everything's healthy and safe. But outside of that, I think that it's the role of city government to support, yes, but also to just sort of cheerlead. But I think it's really up to the businesses to do what they want to do. And I understand that that you know, city council can help facilitate that. But that would be what I would do in city council is you know, just try and be as accepting as people, you know, supportive, like I said before, about people's businesses, their ideas, what they want to do as a business owner. So I'm also an acupuncturist. That's my actual only business other than the Rexall thing we're doing. I've had that business for about 6 years here in Roncevert, but before I had 2 years up in Lewisburg. That business, I don't really have any. The city doesn't laud my business. You know what I mean? Like, there's no. I am part of the Greenbrier Valley Small Business Association, and that is their job, is to promote small business, to make sure that small businesses have a voice, and also to lobby. You know, like to get again a group of businesses together and say, oh, hey, we all want this to happen. We will now take this to the city because we have an organization and all of that. So I think, again, it's my role as city council, other than being accepting and open to anybody's voice, but also maybe help point, you know, businesses in the direction of the Small Business Association of Greenbrier Valley, and you know, even statewide. There's other different organizations outside of city government that have the resources to help businesses that are always struggling and have been here for decades, if not generations. You know, and it's super sad to see any of that go under. But also, again, I think facilitating is all I can think of what I would do as city council, is trying to ease people's ability to get their name out there, to you know, to do what they want to do and build their business in the way that they want to build it.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
Not in an argumentative way. Maybe you misunderstood, or maybe I didn't express myself correctly. It's not about you or the city council getting our business out there or helping us grow. Some of us have been here for decades. We have grown. It's about our concerns being heard and valid, and then we have no vote within who represents the city in which we have to abide by ordinances and we have to pay taxes. I don't want to address this, I just want to say this. Out front of the business, Greenbrier Better Living Center, the city had tore up some of the sidewalk. This is neither here nor there, this is an example. We have yet to have that repaired. And if someone falls on our sidewalk, I do believe, and I could be wrong because I don't know everything, that is our responsibility. But I do know that it is our responsibility to pay Ian Seal every winter to come and shovel that. I've called the city and I've asked them, hey, do you take care of that or do we have to take care of that? That is our responsibility. So I want to know how I don't need anyone to help us grow. I need to know how to communicate, how anyone on that board would choose to incorporate us in the communication to resolve issues and to become transparent and unified in the fact that that needs to get resolved. That goes for not just that particular store, but other businesses. It's not about a chamber of commerce or helping us grow our business. I do that just fine, and I don't mean that in an aggressive or negative way, but I'm very good at what I do. That store has been there way before I was there. We need support from the city to rectify the things that are either out of our control, that were either caused by the city, or there's there's a fine line in what's the city, what's ours. And then we're back to the owner of our business cannot vote because they live outside of city limits. I mean, I wasn't being mean. I was just saying, like, that was my question.
You're fine.
and my concern.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't know if I answered your question or not. Yeah.
Well, the way that's going to be resolved is communication. Not only from you guys as a business owner, David, or Dan as a business owner, or David. That's David. This is Dan. Sorry. I get you guys mixed up a lot. The way I tell is you own the bar, he runs the cabinet shop. Communication, guys, is the biggest thing that needs to happen within the city and within the businesses. I do know that there were grants for the sidewalks that she's mentioning, which is nor here and there. But in order for you to get your voice out there and make it heard is come down and talk. You know, I will say that Pam Mintz will listen. Where it goes from there is from up to Pam. She's the city manager, so
Thank
she's
you,
the
Dan.
one that's in charge.
Emily, did you have something you'd like to add to that?
They said a lot of the same things that I thought because I agree. I mean, I think can y'all hear me? Testing. Are we good? Okay. Is the communication. Like, I feel like everybody, I think it gets overwhelming with everything that has to go down with everything in the government. And I think that sometimes maybe things maybe gets lost in translation. I agree. I think I can see how frustrating that could be. I definitely understand that. I know that when I decided to do this, I have a lot of people that are like, well, I'd vote for you, but I'm not in city limits. You know, you do hear that a lot. And it just kind of comes from my knowledge of not really knowing, you know, how that can change. I have not looked into it. I'm not saying it can't be changed. Maybe it's something we could look into. I mean, if it's something that the city of Ronceverte does want to see, so you have more of a voice. But I feel like I repeat myself when I say, you know, just get involved. You know, definitely come to the meetings. You know, don't give up on it. You know, get on the agenda and just talk it out in good ways. And I think we can fix it. You know.
Thank you, Emily. I have time for one more question. State your name and who your question's for.
My name is Alinda Perrine, and I am speaking as a realtor right now. My question is, and it's really for all of you, one of your biggest buildings in the town is the old hospital. And what do you envision at the old hospital, and how do you see that being used in the middle of the city of Ronceverte?
I'd answer that. I would like to see it become something for kids, not for the homeless. We don't need that in the situation. Right now, Ronceverte has a big drug problem. We don't need the homeless here to add to that problem. That hospital has been here, we've waited for ages. I mean, you've got a few properties here, so you know how old that hospital is. If we could utilize that that old hospital, we could use it as a tutoring. How many kids? Are you there? Okay. How many kids are failing school and have no tutors? Why can't we use that for a tutor for kids? Well, how about some studies? How about some information for kids? You know, I have a special needs kid. Besides school, he has nothing. I mean, come on, that hospital, it has such a potential, but not only for kids, but for adults. You know, have something for adults to go to, like the Greenbrier Committee on Aging. I go there and sing once a month. If anybody wants to go, 60 plus, go and see what it's about. Why not put some offices in there? You can do that. If you put offices and things for kids, that will generate revenue for the city, and it'll bring that property up. And I think that's what we need to do with that hospital.
Would somebody else like
I'll
to
go
respond to that question as well?
So if this question, if the city owned the hospital, does the city own the hospital? What is that? Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Because just in general, what would I think? So I don't know. Honestly, I don't think that a city should be, again, like I said earlier, I don't think that a city should be in charge of making those kind of decisions for private businesses. Definitely, I think that a city should say, you know, if it's not safe, if the building's too old. I mean, if there's something wrong developmentally, that's what I think the city should be there for. You know, but I don't think that a city. First of all, I don't know that Ronsford has the resources, but I really don't believe that a city should be into developing commercial properties for its revenue. I think that a city should be facilitating outside investors, businesses, people, you know, groups, anybody with the ability and the budget to build something great and to be able to be there to facilitate. So as far as what I would love to see there, maybe like a high-rise condo, you know, or maybe I really like keeping the old stuff and renovating it into new apartments. I think that finding housing for families especially, but housing is so tough here, finding housing. So I think that really one of the most economical benefits we could have, Ronsford is one of the things that I fell in love with, is how pedestrian it can be. I mean, you can walk, it's uphill, but you can walk upstairs for 4 or 5 blocks right from the river. You can walk to the river. And that to me is awesome. And I would love to see as many more opportunities as we can to build more housing so that more people can live here and hang out and say hi when we see each other on the street. So.
Thank you, Matt. Emily or Monique, would y'all like to add anything to that?
I'm just gonna second what Eric said and kind of make it something that's more family orientated. You know, like I've mentioned before, I'm sure just after school care, you know, tutoring, maybe a roller rink or just some place where folks can connect. You know, I know you mentioned it's private, it's not city, but you know, spring or summer camps, basketball camps or something indoors that could generate revenue somehow, but just a way for folks to connect.
I'll just add that I really agree with Matt on the fact that if the city doesn't own it, that I think it's hard to, you know, regulate that. But just the fact that it's, you know, being cleaned up and it's going to look better, I think it's great. I think all the ideas sound great. I've always been really, I'm a fan of anything for the youth. So, I mean, if they wanted to do that, definitely would have my support with that. But I'm glad somebody is developing it. It's nice to see that it's looking better in Ronsford.
Thank you, audience members, for your questions, and thank you, candidates. That concludes the City Council portion of tonight's forum.
Let's give them all a round of applause. Y'all did a great job. At this time, we're going to set up and get ready for the mayor candidates. So we'll take a brief 5-minute break here. Thank you.
Attention, everyone. Could I please have all the mayoral candidates to the front? Attention, everyone. Could I please have all mayoral candidates to the front? Yeah, I have one. Thank you, though. Okay.
Could you not get Brandon Becker to do anything?
At this time, we would like to begin the mayor forum with an introduction of the candidates from right to left. We have Sean Honecker, David Withrow, Kim Erskine, and Dina Pack. Let's give them a round of applause. I will now turn it over to the moderator so we can get started. Everybody could take their seats so we can proceed.
Thank you, candidates, for joining us this evening. The first thing I'd like to address with you all is concerns that have been raised over infrastructure. From rising water bills to potholes in the road. What is your thoughts on how best to address those concerns? Let's start with candidate Pack.
Okay, can you hear me? First, thank you to the West Virginia Daily News for putting on this event and giving everyone a chance to come out and hear the answers to these questions. And also thank you to my family and friends for your constant support. I appreciate you as well. When I was elected 4 years ago, I said I wanted to continue the improvements to our water system. And we have completed 2 of the 3 projects that we are working on. The third is getting ready to get started, and that's going to be on Monroe Avenue. And throughout the completion of these projects, the water loss, we've been using, we started out using about 400,000 gallons a day, and we've been able to cut that water loss down to 200,000 gallons a day, which is a significant drop. Now, during this time also, Lewisburg got their water plant, and there have been, I think, some raises in water rates in Lewisburg. We have not raised rates on the sewer for 8 years, and it's been almost 5 years since we raised the rate for the water. We are continuously searching for potential options for how do we continue fixing the old pipes. How do we best offer these services to our customers and in the cheapest way possible. There are many options we're considering, including, we've talked to multiple people about putting in a water plant. We've been told that even if we were to get the funding for that, the portion that the city would have to come up with would cause rates for our citizens to increase significantly. So that's something that we've been told repeatedly probably would not be feasible. It's not something that PSC would approve. So we're looking at, is there funding out there for additional projects? We need to repair the pipes on T-Berry, Briar Hill, Chesapeake Street, those areas. So there are a lot of options that we're looking into, and we know that we need to continue to decrease the water loss from these old pipes. And once we meet our bond, then at that point, we could go to PSC and petition to lower our rates. That's not something that the city can set. It's something that the PSC sets. As far as the potholes, as I believe the city council folks mentioned, some of these are owned are state roads, and so we don't have jurisdiction to pave those. When probably, I think in late 21, early 22, we were able to pave, I think, 7 or 8 roads. And the cost of that was, I think, about $150,000. So paving roads is expensive. Before we paved those roads, I think it had been over a decade since any roads had been paved. We are currently working to try to work out a deal and to do some additional roads. Also, we have to take into consideration that the utility companies, Mountaineer Gas, for example, they have been replacing their lines. So we have to be strategic about which roads we replace, because if we would pave a road and then they turn around and tear it up to put in their utility, which they have the right of way to do so, then we basically wasted our money there. So there are a lot of factors that we have to take into consideration, but we do understand that there are potholes, and they can, they do need to be filled or fixed, however we can do that. And what I would suggest is that people that see a pothole, the one that was mentioned about right at the bottom of the hill, unfortunately is 219, which is a state road. So we might be able to patch that, but that's actually a state road. But I think that we are making improvements, and we just have to continue on this path and keep looking for grant funding, looking for partners that we can work with that are willing to, understand the city's abilities financially and work with us to continue making improvements.
Good afternoon. I'm Kim Erskine, and I decided that I was going to run for mayor after walking 2, 3, 4, 5 miles a day on these streets, and I seen things that needed to be done. And I thought, what better way is to throw my hat in there and do it. And so with that, I've had lots of times to think about the things that I see. And I know the water rates, I hear from people often about the water rates. So I thought about it, and government funding is not guaranteed, so we can't bank on that. So the best way, I was thinking, is to look into auditing or looking over Lewisburg's billing structure to us. Like, how do they get the rate that they give to us? Is that a fair rate? Also, spending time and resources to find other communities that are set up just like us, buying water from somebody else, and see how they have been able to keep their rates lower. With that, if there's several towns that it's running into the same thing, I think as communities, not just our community, but other communities, we should get together and take that to our representatives, to the Capitol or wherever, to get these things, fixed. Now, about the roads, the state roads, there's not much we can do as state other than if I was the mayor, I would call or email those folks daily to get somebody down here to fix those roads and then keep them maintained. As far as the city roads, we need to figure out a way to work with others, whether it's somebody that's driving on these roads every day. Maybe those guys would be offering, since they live here in Ronsford, no, I'm not asking them to do it for free, but maybe they'll give us a better bid. Because let's be honest, spending $200 on a tire you've done popped in a pothole is ridiculous. But if they could take that off and do okay, well, I'm not buying tires every week, I could give them some gravel or donate some blacktop or whatever to get it fixed, that would be something we would try to do.
Hi, I'm Dave Withrow. As far as the water is concerned, I believe that it is higher than most. And I was at the last city council meeting, and they was talking about selling our water structure and our sewage structure to the American Water Corporation. And I don't think that's a good idea. The simple fact, Oak Hill has done it. They got the same company, and all their water went up. That's what happens. If they sell it to somebody else, they'll own all of our pipes. They'll come in and fix them, but then they're going to run the price up. So we're not going to help ourselves that way. But according to what, like what Dina said, if we just fix our leaks, that'll help a lot. And I also think that we got our sewer, and we do get all Lewisburg sewer. I mean, is there not some kind of trade-off? We get their water, then we get all their waste. I mean, it looks like to me that we could swap off some kind of trade-off, and it would help us all, because we do have the sewage treatment plant, and we're going to have it anyway. So why not charge Lewisburg for the waste and swap it out with water prices? I think that would help all of us. Also, with the roads, of course, like Eric said, there's potholes on Pocahontas Avenue that you could probably bury a cow in, and now they've put gravel in them. They didn't even put any of that bagged asphalt. At least they could do is put bagged asphalt in it. My bedroom is right on the front of my house, and at night you lay in bed, all you hear, it sounds like somebody coming up a country road. I was raised on a gravel road, and it sounds like somebody coming up a country road every night. One good thing about the potholes is, on Pocahontas Avenue, you can lay there in bed at night, and it sounds like a drag strip coming down through there. People fly. So it's like a natural speed bump. So anyway, I do think that we do need to get some kind of help getting these roads fixed, our streets fixed. I think that should be one of the priorities, other than buying these buildings. Buying buildings and having them tore down for looks, as opposed to something we got to run on every day. I think that's more important. Ronsford's a good town, and it would be a lot better if we had, we'd probably get more people coming down here if the roads weren't so bad. So anyway, that is my opinion on that. Thank you.
I'll have to second a lot of what David said there. I agree that when we're spending money, we should be spending elsewhere on the roads and whatnot. I do think, I know what Dina said, but I think it's feasible to go back and look. We had a great water plant. Why can't we have it again? There has to be some funding we can get somewhere to rebuild our water plant and do something with it. I mean, that at least is an alternative to look at. I know there's some issues about time we've had buying water from Lewisburg, the contract-wise, but it can be investigated and looked at. Other than that, just a lot of investigation on why we're charging so much for our water as compared to what we get it from Lewisburg for. And I know the PSC has control a lot of that, but we still have to look into it and see why it's so high. On the roads, I may make some people mad, but we have a city crew. I mean, we pay a city crew. I know we just came out of a good winter. A lot of damage was done through the winter from plowing snow. We have an asphalt company, the owner lives here in town. I'm sure we can work out some kind of deal to buy the patches from them. It shouldn't be too hard to do. That's I'm short and sweet. Sorry, guys.
Candidates, what is one way that you would address concerns of transparency between local officials and the public?
Thank you. Transparency, I think, is being used kind of haphazardly when it comes to relating to the city council and to our city administration. We follow West Virginia Ethics Commission as far as what's required for posting agendas, the times that are needed, where they have to be posted, what's posted on the agendas. We do not make any decisions that are not at an open to the public city council meeting. Anyone can attend those meetings. We actually just received funding so that we will be able to start live streaming all of our meetings, so people that don't want to attend in person can be able to watch via live stream. Everything, admittedly, we've had some issues with the company that we use to start our website, and we had some difficulties there. But now if you go on the website, you can find meeting minutes, agendas, business, building codes, municipal codes, applications for various building permits, things of that nature. So I know that Pam is a full-time employee. City Council and the mayor are part-time employees, but Pam is available at City Hall. I know that she works diligently to answer any questions or concerns that come in. I constantly am answering text messages, Facebook messages, as quickly as I possibly can at all hours of the night. And I think that we have been working very hard, and if people attend the meetings, they will see and know everything that's going on. There's nothing that is being hidden from anyone. In fact, one thing that I'd like to clear up is that the stormwater project coming down Ronsford Hill is not a beautification project. It's an $8 million project that was awarded by Shelley Capito's office because there is no drainage system under those buildings. And so because the soil is kind of sinking in, the above part of that is sinking in as well. And also part of the project that $0 are coming from the city of Ronsford's budget. It will replace all of that piping, and there will also be across the train tracks a machine that helps cycle any water that would be coming in from the river back out to the river. So the goal is to prevent, excessive flooding in Ronsford, which I think is very important, and especially with what happened in White Sulphur in 2016, it's something that we need to be very aware of and do what we can to protect the people. So I just wanted to clear that up.
For transparency, I would make sure that people know what is going on at all times in the community. And doing that, as the mayor, I would write out a newsletter each month and put it in the water bill to send out. And it would do like several bullet points, whether it was what was going on with the budget, what was said at the last council meeting, as well as introducing the employees. Each employee would be at some time introduced, and it might be 2 employees on that, so that at least you know who is coming. If you had something at your house that somebody was going to be there for, you would need to know who these people are. I think it's very important for us to know who our police officers are as well. A lot of times those are the people you run into, and so you would like to know who those people were before they got to you.
All right, I believe with the transparency thing, I think that if someone comes in and asks you a question, the truth is always your best bet. Don't hide it. Don't hide anything. Don't tell them, that, well, we don't know, when you really do. So, I've had issues. I'll tell you up front, I've had issues with the city over their ordinances. I went in, we had a property thing where people built over the line. And I've asked for the ordinances. Well, nobody seems to know where the ordinances are. There's supposed to be a 10-foot setback. So nobody knows anything about it. So there is no ordinances. But now if you was to come up and just somebody else would do it, they could get by or not. It depends on who it is. So anyway, I think that everybody should know an answer, like the music hall down here. Nobody can give an answer to why the city took it. They say it's in court now, okay? So, but before it went to court, nobody could tell them why they was taking it, to my understanding. Now, somebody else might know something different. But I don't think that's right of a city council to be able to take a place like that and not have a reason that they can tell everybody. And like I said, that's just from my perception. Somebody might know something different than that, but I don't know. But I think that with the transparency thing, I think the public that lives in Ronsford should know what is going on at all times. Either they have a question about it, come in, ask, get an answer. Not, well, we don't know yet, or, Now, Pam, I've asked Pam questions, and she's straight up with me. on about everything I've asked. So, but anyway, that's how I feel about the transparency. The truth will set you free.
Yeah, I agree with that on transparency. The city should be fully transparent. If a person comes into a council meeting and has a question, I was on council for 12 years, and David Smith was the mayor. We did our absolute best to answer a question everybody asked. If we didn't know the answer, we'll get back to you the next day or two. We tried our best to answer every single question. Barb was on there with me. She knows. We had questions every meeting. We gave them enough time to talk about it, and then we answered their question if we could. And I think that needs to be addressed, and we'd be a lot more open in our council meetings and answering questions. And if somebody has a question, that's what the council's for. You come to the meeting, you ask a question, you get an answer. That's the way it should be. So just because we meet a requirement doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. We have to make sure it's answered by everybody.
Please detail a goal you have for the revitalization of the downtown area.
One of the goals that I have, I think, is to continue the progress that we've made downtown, to continue working with existing business owners, new business owners, any citizens that want to be involved. There are, every council meeting we're asking for volunteers. Ronceverte was one of 7 municipalities in the entire state that was awarded the Accelerate West Virginia program. And what we've done with that, we've made our project the revitalization of the Clifford Armory. I just worked with our city recorder and a volunteer, and we just submitted a $450,000 grant request to replace the roof and the windows of the armory. We have a site redevelopment plan ongoing of how we can utilize that space to the best of what it's capable of. I heard multiple people on the city council panel talk about a place for kids. And that's one of the things that we're focusing on, getting the gym back open, having after-school tutoring, even possibly an incubator place for someone that may be interested in starting a new business. And it could be a cheap rent for a few months while they're starting their business to see if it could be successful. Also a food truck incubator that they're doing in Bluefield. We've been talking to those folks about how it works there and if that's something that we could do. Additionally, I think continuing to have events downtown and on the island, bring people down and help to encourage people to move to Ronceverte or to patronize the businesses. But overall, I would just say continue doing what we're doing and working with the people that are interested in seeing Ronceverte move forward.
I've already started to check into who the owners are of the empty storefronts. I would like to speak with those folks and see how we can help them to bring a business to Ronceverte and to keep it in Ronceverte. The other thing would be is as far as helping them stage windows if they're not going to put something in there right away, just so it doesn't look empty all the time. Make sure these folks are keeping up with the maintenance of the building, because some of those buildings are, ratty and need to be something done to those. And so I would make sure that they are following the ordinances that are already in place.
Okay, about downtown area. I am a believer that Ronceverte is blue collar, okay? We're not tourism. Ronceverte's not a tourism place. Really, it's not. It's blue collar. So I like to envision downtown being full of businesses and something that people would come to from Lewisburg to use. So get businesses in all the storefronts, but not something that, it's okay to have some tourism stuff, but not everything. Everything's not about tourism, because we need just businesses. Even if we have a small grocery store down there, it saves you going up the hill or anything, or specialty stores, that I don't know what right off the top of my head we would put in there, but something other than tourist stuff. We just need to pack town full of that if we can. But that's what I envision.
I'm real happy with the way Ronsford's grown the last few years business-wise. I think we need to pay more attention to our cornerstone businesses, our keystones, the local business been here forever. The Bump Shop, Ripco, Rip Martin and Jones, the thrift store. But I'd like to see continued growth downtown, and I'd like to see some things. I like the direction the River Festival's going this year. I'd like to see some more improvement there as far as bringing back the mud bog. A lot of people miss that in the area. I would like to see the music hall go back to them. I think that's something needed in the community. I hate it was ever taken away from them. I'm not sure why. I don't know. I wasn't part of the decision on that, but I would love to know why and like to see it go back to them. Other than that, I'd just like to see it continue to grow. Oh, and one more thing. I'd like to, on the local businesses here, I would like to see them get some kind of a committee formed where all the local business heads can come together once a month and meet with some of the council members and discuss their problems and work for a way to fix their problems. At least they do have a voice that way. If we can't get them to vote, they can at least have something be heard. So.
Now that the city owns the train station, what is your goal or hope for what that will become?
Well, we don't own it yet. I was given permission to announce that we had a deal in principle, but the paper's not signed yet. But the goal, so as part of our agreement with CSX, they did remediate the bottom of, because there was some asbestos in there. So they remediated that. What we need to do first, once the ink dries on the agreement, is to get in there. I've already spoken with someone with West Virginia Brownfields about helping us develop a site plan. As it was mentioned earlier, I do think that the first thing I'd want to do is spruce up the outside. It could use a nice paint job, there are flowers, things like that to make it look more vibrant, I think. But we have talked about the possibility of maybe a visitor center or a new home for a lot of our museum artifacts that I know, Doug Hilton collected many artifacts over the years and was very proud of that, and they deserve to be displayed. So, but I think that's a conversation that we can have with the greater community. What would they like to see? What do they think would be, how would that space be best utilized, and go from there.
I would like to see that turned into a museum. And I have connections with the West Virginia Small Museum Association. And so I would use those folks to help us move that forward. I also think that we could get volunteers, and when I say volunteers, like AmeriCorps folks in there to help us with that, retired teachers, as far as also you could get the history people. We all have seen how many times on Vintage Ronsford people posting old pictures and stuff, and so I'm sure those folks would definitely come in to help us. The other thing I would like to see is the National Historic Landmark Program put in place, and so to see what kind of benefits we could get from them to help us with that.
Well, the depot right now is like a blank canvas. It can be almost anything we want it to be. And I'm not in full agreement that we should do a museum in it. But, however, I do think that we could do, if the city could come up with the money to turn it into a restaurant. I've envisioned it as a good restaurant for years. Anyway, and do it like a Cracker Barrel. If you want to do a museum, do a museum on the walls and have a restaurant in the middle. And there is one in Bedford, Virginia, it's an old depot. They fixed it up like, it's a restaurant, and they had all the decoration like railroads type stuff in it. So that's what I would envision for the depot. And if the city was to do that, they could lease it, rent it, or something more like lease, and make money off of it if they could find a good business owner to open up the restaurant and run that. Because, I mean, we've got the Mexican restaurant down here. Something like this would bring people here. And that's what we're looking to do, is bring people to Ronsford and spend money here. And then that would be another tax, you know, we get tax revenue from that, so, and plus a lease. So anyway, I think that would be the perfect thing for the depot. I mean, it's been here, I think, 1914. I work up at Architectural Wood up in T-Berry, and we redone the bench. There used to be a bench outside that was made in 1914. It went to the depot, and then we got done with it. They took it down to the city building, and that's where it's still at. So I think, you know, you bring that back up, and then you can have outside dining there, because they got them awnings that you can sit under, you know. So anyway, that is what I envision for the depot.
I think the restaurant's a good idea, but I may be crazy. I think City Hall would be nice in there. I mean, I think it'd be a great place for City Hall or the police department. The police department now, they have the deal with stairs taking it, you know, people are in custody upstairs, downstairs, upstairs, downstairs. They can just walk in the side door there and be done with it and have a place to park cars under the awnings and everything. Just personal opinion. I haven't known about it for very long since they announced it being available to us possibly if it happens. And that's just some thoughts I've had. So.
Candidates, please describe one goal you have for your term if you're elected.
I feel like kind of a broken record also, but my goal would be to continue with the positive momentum that we have both on the Island Park with all of the upcoming projects, including disc golf, the miniature golf course, pickleball courts, to continue growing the activities that are available on the island while also growing downtown. And I think my goal would be to get the pedestrian bridge completed. Now that we have the depot, I think, you know, we have requested earmark funding from both senators and the Congresswoman Miller to redo that, to remove the Workman Bridge and put in a pedestrian bridge. That would be probably my biggest goal, and then my second biggest goal would be to get the Armory up and running as a true community center for all the residents of Ronsford.
One of my goals would be to create safer neighborhoods for everyone. When we think of the running dogs, I know you see that a lot, and as I say, I walk 3 to 5 miles a day, so a lot of times I see dogs and you're not for sure if they're friendly or not. So not only creating safer neighborhoods, but with that, I would have, you know, we'd have to follow the ordinances to make sure that, you know, people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. I love my dog just as well as everybody else, but we need to keep them. I'd also have community policing, more police officers on the streets, patrolling more often.
My goals would be, for one, to fix the things we've talked about tonight that are broke. Streets, the water prices. That's 2 goals for sure. The other goal would be, I want every citizen in Ronsford to have their problems heard and addressed. That's one of my main goals. I want everybody who has a voice to be heard by the council, to be answered by the council. I want, and mainly in a timely manner as well. That would help a lot. I've got answers. It's took me a while before, but I did get some answers. Not necessarily the ones I wanted. Some of them I think was a farce, but anyway. That is my goal.
I agree a lot with what most of the members up here said today, that I like the way Ronsford is growing. I like to see it continue. I'd like to see more transparency. I'd like to see more police patrolling the streets. I just want to see Ronsford be a town we can be proud of again. Be happy to tell people you're from here and like it here. You know, I want to see it grow and keep doing better. I love our new businesses. I love our old business. I want to see it grow. That's what I'd love to see happen for our town. I've lived here for over 20 years now, and that's what I'd like to see.
Thank you, candidates. We will now take some questions from the audience. Audience members, please raise your hands if you would like to ask the candidates a question.
State your name and who your question is for.
My name is Caitlin, and my question is for all the candidates. I've had an issue in the past trying to get gravel for Spring Street. That is a street in Ronsford that's paved, and then you go up to my house and it's gravel. I tried back in August, and the staff at City Hall did not help me. I ended up having to message Dina in November to get that set, and it was fixed that day. But why should it take that long to get an answer? My question is, if that was your staff, what would you do?
Well, I definitely, it should not take that long for that to happen. And I am glad that once you reached out and I got in touch with Pam, it was taken care of. When someone in our staff doesn't do something that they're supposed to do, we have a policies and procedures manual for all of our employees. And obviously, part of that is doing your job correctly. So if she's the boss of every department, with the exception of the police department, which I am the boss of the police department. So it's Pam's job, but Pam always does keep me in the know if someone needs to be written up for something. So they would have a meeting with Pam, she would write them up, it would go into their file. So if they receive, I believe it's 3, you can have verbal warnings that are noted or written warning. Well, it's a written violation. And so once you reach a certain number, then you're either put on probation or you can be terminated. And I think that obviously it's hard to keep. I think anybody that runs business or in city knows that it's hard to keep employees, and it's even harder to keep good employees. So it is important if something like that happens that we know that, hey, I didn't get an answer for this long, and we can address it that way. So I am sorry that it took that long, but glad that it was resolved, and just let us know if you need more gravel.
Yeah, my issue is that I have to fight every winter to get it treated. It's always something, and then they were trying to tell me that it wasn't a city street, when actually when I was building that house, I was told that I couldn't purchase it, and there was a 10-foot easement, and I had to go through the zoning committee and everything. I had to go through the zoning committee and get special, or have all my my neighbors had to say it was okay. Yeah, and then when my dad had the same issue, it wasn't, the neighbors didn't have to get an easement or anything. And my property line was on a city street. So I just think that things are done differently for different people in Ronsford.
Well, I apologize that you feel that way. It's certainly not ever my intention. I'm born and bred Ronsford girl, and I love it here, and I love being part of the city government. And I would never think that we should treat anyone differently than anyone else. So, well, we should resolve any issues when they pop up.
So to keep things so that we know what's going on, I would have work orders, make sure everybody has a work order. And at the end of the week, I would ask Pam or one of the girls in the office to check those off. They would be responsible for checking those off, making sure. If it meant driving their car out there, looking for themselves and coming back and saying, yep, it was definitely done. On that work order, the person that did the job needs to sign off on it as well.
I have to agree with Dina on the what you would do with an employee. You would have to go by the protocol if the employee was wrong. Also, I know a little personal about the street thing, and it's definitely a street. It's Spring Street. It's not paved. It's not gravelled, but it's just dirt, but it's a street, and it's on the city map. But apparently, the city don't think they have to plow it. Now, she lives on it now, but they don't think they have to plow that street. And when they do plow, they plow her in. So anyway, but that's my thoughts on that.
I have to agree with Kim on this. The work order, I'm going to take it a little farther, though. I think there should be a form at the City Hall that you walk in and put in a work order request. And that way it's documented and you have a legal you have a copy of it. You know it's documented, submitted. So you have some kind of proof, hey, I asked for this 3 months ago. Nothing's been done. And I think from there it can be sent up to the City Hall like at Pam, and she can look over, and if there's something they're going to have a question about, they can contact you about it. So that's what I think will make that a little easier and better for everybody.
Thank you. State your name and who your question is for.
My name is Denise Sizemore. This is not really a question. I believe Dina Pack, in the last 4 years, has done more things in the last probably decade. And give her a chance and let her do 4 more years. Thank you.
My name is Gregory Gay. I have a sister who has autism, and I would like to ask all the candidates, what would your plan be over the next 4 years to make Ronsford a more inclusive community? I know Dina has done a pretty good job at that over the last 4 years, but I wanted to ask her what she would continue to do, and the other candidates, what would you like to add on to that?
First of all, I just want to say that for everyone that's here, Gregory is the high school member of our Parks and Rec Committee, and he's already serving his community, and I believe, are you going to Boise State this summer, Gregory? I plan to, yes. Congratulations on that. He's a great kid. But to answer your question, Gregory, I think your mother was very proactive and approached me about putting up nonverbal communication boards on the playground. And if you don't know what those are, basically if you have a child that's nonverbal and you're on the playground, there's a lot of pictures and letters and things like that on this nonverbal board. And the child can actually communicate with maybe their caregiver or other children that kind of makes them feel more included while they're on the playground. And when we decided to replace the playground, we worked with a company and requested inclusive parts of the playground so that whether a child might be in a wheelchair or whether it might be a special needs adult that wants to swing, or just if a child has sensory issues, we put all of those, we put features in the playground that kind of gave everyone an opportunity to play on the playground. So that's something that I'm really proud that we were able to do. I think that we can continue looking for ways to be more inclusive. Possibly, I know the River Festival had autism special hours one year because for a lot of autistic people, loud noises and things like that really bothered them. So they had special hours for autistic children, which I thought was a great idea, and I'd love for them to continue doing that. And maybe with some of our events, like maybe the Food Truck Festival or other events that we do, we could try to incorporate some inclusive activities for special needs children. But definitely also, Eric mentioned when he was up here that he'd like to see more activities for children with special needs, and that could be something if he wanted to be involved in, we're looking for volunteers to help come up with a business plan for the Armory, what would be good in there. And maybe something like special needs activities for kids and adults is something that could go in there. So it's something that we should always, be mindful of and continue to practice.
I agree that all children should be included in everything. I personally do not have any experience with autistic children, so to say this is what I'm going to do, I couldn't do that. But what I would do is get the people that are familiar with those children, whether it's whatever, handicap in any way. So if it's kid in wheelchair, how can we help best serve them? Whatever it takes, I would sit down. We would start a little, we'd have a committee of people to sit down so they could talk to me and say, these ideas, there's things that I think would work out best for us.
I have a 31-year-old brother-in-law who is mentally challenged. He's nonverbal, and he likes to do everything down at the park. I mean, I think they've done a fine job with what they've done. I mean, he'll swing, he'll whatever. If I was to add anything that I would like to do, and it would be very expensive, but it would be an all-inclusive for everybody. But I would like to see him put a pool in at where the old elementary is on top of the hill. It's out of the flood zone. Plenty of parking up there. So, I mean, that's something, because my brother-in-law, he loves the water, and he loves going to the pool. So that would be something great right here in town. Also something about which would bring people down here in the summertime. So anyway, that's what I think.
I agree they've done a good job so far with the stuff they've done. I don't know much about autism. I have a niece with Downs, and I would love to see everything done possible to include them. If you have suggestions, come to City Hall and make the suggestions. Again, I am no expert about any of that. I know nothing about it at all. You know way more than I do. So your input's greatly appreciated. We'd love to have it. So.
Thank you. State your name and who your question is for.
My name's Jeanette Adkins, and my question is for each of you. I can't have flowers or trees or a garden, and I just wonder what your position is on urban deer hunting.
Thank you.
We have allowed urban deer hunting for the last several years. The last year that it was requested, we did have, I'm sorry. Is it you? We had Chief Hopkins provide us with some information, and the issue that we had was that we weren't getting we weren't getting many reported deer that had been hunted. And so based on and then I don't believe that anyone attended the meeting to answer the questions about the requirements, because nobody had submitted anything to City Hall, and I think only a few were submitted as per the requirement online. So based on the lack of the compliance with the rules for the urban deer hunt, we did not approve it this year. But previous to the last several years, it had been approved. So the council isn't opposed to it, but as long as the people that are participating are complying with the rules related to reporting and things like that.
I also have issues with deer, and so I am 100% in support of urban deer hunting.
I am a non-hunter, but not an anti-hunter. I just don't hunt, but I'm all for the deer being killed with bows here in town, because there's plenty of them, and they do eat the flowers. You can't have tulips. Or it's the tulips. There's one flower they don't eat, but anyway. Yeah, But anyway, I mean, why not put them in your freezer, you know? That's more food you don't have to buy. You know how high groceries are now. So yes, I'm all for it.
And not only the plants, but the cars that are hit by deer in town every year, and they're a menace. There's 2 minutes. The population is out of control. I'm 100% in favor of it. Would love to see it extended a little bit farther. Let it take a little bit longer, have more permits, whatever. I do think they need to comply better with the law, return them in and whatnot, but absolutely, I'm all for it.
Thank you. State your name and who your question is for.
This question is for everybody. My name is Aaron Ransom. I live really close to the old elementary school. Dave, you kind of took the wind out of my sail here, man. But I'd like to know if anybody has any plans for that. Right now, it's just kind of an eyesore, and it's kind of an ugly area right now. There's a lot of bad activity that goes in up there. I had even thrown out the idea of a pool there, Dave, and they said it detracted from the downtown attention, so it was no-go. But I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about that area and what's going on there.
Thank you.
The old elementary school was sold at auction by the Board of Education. It was sold to a gentleman in, I believe it was either Wyoming County or it was somewhere in kind of on the Kentucky border. And I think when he purchased that building, his intention was to put in like senior housing. When he got in there, he realized that there was asbestos and lead paint and things like that. So what he did, unfortunately, was strip it of everything that was worth anything and then just left the giant piles of rubble that you see today. When I first took over, I got with Pam and we said, okay, what can we do to get this property back into, because we couldn't even make arrests because it was private property and he declined to press charges. And we knew that there were things happening there. But so it was kind of tying our hands. So we worked with him and he was willing, he had not paid municipal fees for a very long time. So what we were able to do was to waive his municipal fees that we did not believe we were gonna ever get anyway, and he deeded that property to us. But because of all of the rubble and because it was the school with asbestos and lead, we had to do a phase 1, some testing to make sure, because if there's certain things in that soil and in that all that debris, it has to be taken to a special dump. So that, and of course, you know, anything that was West Virginia Brownfields, they were amazing to come down and do that. But all of that is a time-consuming process. So we do have, you know, that going on. We've requested additional funding to help with removing the debris. Right now, for some reason, it is zoned industrial. And we have discussed requiring voting on a change in the zoning, making it a mixed use. So it could be maybe some houses are built there, or houses and some sort of commercial building of some sort, but to have some development there. And I don't know who said that the pool would detract from downtown. My understanding when we've been asked about a pool is that prior to me being on council, that Doug Hilton, I believe, had worked and had multiple quotes on a pool, and there was a lack of interest from community members, and so they couldn't afford to get the money. I mean, it was going to be expensive, kind of like, you know, how in White Sulphur and, you know, how they had to do all that fundraising and things like that. So I think when there was a lack of people in attendance, and I wasn't there, so I don't know for sure, but that was my understanding. If there was interest in a place to do it and we could afford the insurance and all of that stuff, I think, obviously, I spent my childhood at the Ronceverte pool, so I'm not opposed to having a pool for my kids to just walk down the hill and go to. But definitely, that is in process to make something happen with that. I understand. I can see it from my yard, and it's not the prettiest view I've ever seen. So we're definitely trying to get that cleaned up and get someone to figure out what we want to do next with that. And if you have, you know, thoughts or opinions, come down and talk with Pam or reach out to me, and I mean, happy to listen.
So I'll start with Aaron. I was at that time worked for the city of Ronsford, and so I was on that panel for the pool. And there was, we were basically begging people to come to that meeting. And it wasn't one meeting, it was several meetings, and it was advertised very well, like, come to help, let us know what we can do and what kind of fundraisers, ideas, like everybody get together to have fundraisers, so we could get this pool, and it just fizzled out pretty quickly, okay? Maybe the first time there was maybe 20 people there, and then after that, we just watched them just dissolve. So I can speak on that. For me, I would like to have that cleaned up. I know it's a process, and we would have to see what we could do to get that cleaned up. I personally would like to see, similar to White Sulphur, that complex, they have the swimming pool where you can go in and lift weights if you like. They also, you can have pool parties over there, something like that, and make it reasonable. The other reasonable thing, and my dad at that time lived in White Sulphur, so I was able to keep that. So you paid extra on your water bill every month, and then the first year, but they kind of changed it because it was supposed to be the first 5 years you got a pool pass for free, since you helped. And so we, the first year, got a pool pass, and so we could go in and out of the pool. And so something like that I'd like to see up there, a community thing, which would bring kids.
This committee that they had, I don't think anybody should quit trying to get people to do it. If you quit, you're never going to get it done. So I think they need to advertise more. Even if it takes 2 years to get people together and make it happen. I'm not a quitter. As City Hall might have figured out that I always came to meetings and complained all the time. I told them I wasn't going to quit. I got mad one time, walked out. But anyway, other than that, I don't quit, and I don't think we should quit on it. If we can get something going with the people, just advertise it. Even if it's months in advance, say, okay, we're going to have a meeting about this pool gathering, and see what we can do, but just don't quit on it. Because if you quit on an idea, if the Wright brothers would have quit, they'd have never flew.
I don't know much about the building up there. I know it's a terrible eyesore. I do think we should start the process of trying to get a pool or something done up there again. It needs to at least be leveled down and made look decent again. If we have to rezone it to do something with it, whatever it may be. It is a horrible eyesore. I'm actually glad I don't live within eyesight of it. It's been there for far too long like that. So, other than that, I don't know much about it, but I would love to see something done with it.
Thank you. State your name and who your question is for.
Yes, thank you. My name is Brianna Scott, and my question is for all of the candidates this evening. We've talked a lot about transparency and about growth in our community tonight, and while that's great, my biggest question for each of you is, how specifically, right, are you reaching into the community to improve things such as voter literacy? Right, so in the last Ronsford municipal election, only 211 Ronsford residents came out to vote. And just if you aren't aware, there are over 1,500 Ronsford residents that are listed in the census, the last census, as well as a reported roughly 665 households, okay? So 211 voters, that's less than 1/3 of all the households in Ronsford. So I know personally, it might be a surprise to some of you, but I'm related to Kim. And I know personally, my mom has spent the last decade or more working in elections, right? In different capacities in state, government, city, even here in Ronsford, to ensure that voters are heard and seen and listened to and our voices are heard, right? We're talking so much about being heard, but how are each of you reaching into your community and actually making this something that should be talked about or something that we can rectify? It all comes down to the voters. So right now, about 147 people in Ronsford voted for our current mayor out of over 1,500. So that's my question. How directly are you as a candidate reaching out to the community about these very important issues?
Well, and I think honestly, that was one of the higher turnouts. And unfortunately, it's an epidemic across the country. You know, the amount of people that actually show up and vote for, or, you know, whoever their chosen candidate is extremely low. I mean, I have not worked elections. I let my mom do that, and she enjoyed it so much, and my aunt actually too, and I let them enjoy that. But obviously, I think it's very important to encourage getting out the vote and understanding your rights to vote, how you make that happen, where you need to go if you go to the courthouse to check and make sure, because I know that there are oftentimes issues where you've been, let's say you didn't vote for a couple of cycles, and they purge your information. So you have to go, you know, you need to explain to people that you have to go and, you know, check at the courthouse, see if your information's on there, or do you know your correct precinct, which is different for a local election because, you know, all of our elections are at City Hall. So that's not really applicable for our local elections. The way that I think that I've tried to get out in the community and work on that is by volunteering in different capacities, whether it's through Accelerate West Virginia or going down and just volunteering at the Little League, or, you know, and then when they start asking me, you know, about certain issues and we have conversations about voting, and, you know, kind of at that point you talk to the people and make sure they understand what their rights are, why they should vote. You know, I have a 17-year-old and a 13-year-old, and I'm already preaching to them the importance of voting. And, you know, when you hear people say my vote doesn't count, especially in a small town like we have, every vote does count. And, you know, people have said repeatedly tonight, your voice can be heard. Getting out and voting on June the 3rd is how your voice can be heard. If you don't like what I've done as mayor, you can come out on June 3rd if you live in city limits, and you can vote for someone else. If you do like it, you can come out and you can vote for me. And that's what people need to understand, that is their right, and they do have the power to control what happens in their town.
So I'm focused on the how, just to be clear for everybody else, not the, you know, what the problem is, or I'm focused on the how you want to fix it, or how you are.
Well, I think just getting in the community and talking to people. And, you know, I know that Kim did a voter drive, and I thought that was great. Encouraging, and we actually had talked about, you know, I know different groups have gone to the high school and registered people and taught them why it's important. So those are starting them young and having conversations about the importance of voting is what I think I'm trying to do. I think I could always do it better. And I mean, obviously, you know, I was lucky enough that I had the top number of votes, but also disappointed that was the amount of people that came out to vote, because, you know, in many ways, local elections have more effect on the people that are sitting in this room than national elections.
So Dina here stole some of my thunder. Saturday we had I already don't like her. I see it. Saturday, we had a Cookies with a Candidate, and with that event, I had gals set up 2 opposing parties, so there was no, did you force them? Either way. 2 opposing parties sitting there so that they could take and talk to people, and we had the paper application so they could, you know, if they were wanting to write it out, because some people don't trust the cell phone to put your information into the cell phone, or we had the website pulled up or wrote down so that they could put it in their phone and literally register right then to vote if they so chose to, if they weren't already registered to vote. So that's what we did. like I said before, I've worked with elections for many years, so I know the importance of checking your voters' registration from time to time, because last year in November, people would come to vote and found out that they weren't even in the system any longer. So that's some things, and I've been going door to door, and I ask people when I'm at their door, like, hey, are you registered to vote? Oh, you're not. Well, here's what we can do. Here's this piece of paper. You can do it this way, or you can do it on your phone.
Candidates, before moving forward, I ask that you all please keep your responses to 2 minutes or less. Thank you.
Well, my thoughts are, I put signs out. I'm going to be coming to your door, handing my cards out. And on election day, something I haven't seen in any of the elections is the city advertising. Anywhere that it is election day, come to the city hall and vote, please. I've never seen that. I ran for mayor in 2013 against David Smith. That day, I stood on the street corner down here at Gary Weichels, holding signs up. Election day, come vote. Vote for Dave Withrow. Well, that didn't work. Anyway, I lost. So anyway, but I'll still, my plans is to come out and stand down there on that corner and let everybody know it's election day. It might be after 2:30 when I get off from work, but that's what my plans are, to get people to come out and vote.
I like what Kim said about the voter drive, and I think the other thing I would appreciate, regardless of whether you're Republican, Democrat, what side you're on, doesn't matter. People need to come vote, and I would like to see the city on maybe the water bills. I know I'm afraid to look at mine every month, but I would like to see some kind of note about a couple months in advance to remind everybody that the elections are coming up. So that would help, tell people, hey, the elections are coming up, register to vote, take care of some stuff.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ben Anderson. I'm an accountant, so I'm a dollars and cents kind of person. Lewisburg and Alderson have both instituted a 1% municipal sales tax. Now, obviously, in your run for mayor, there's a lot of lofty goals for the finances of our city and doing great things for our town. For each candidate, would any of you all be interested in instituting a 1% municipal sales tax? And if not, how do you intend to improve the finances of the town of Ronceverte? Thank you.
All right, start timing me, guys, because I'm windy. Thank you, Ben. Actually, so we have been approved, if we so choose, to move forward with home rule. And one of the options, so most places either have a 1% sales tax or they have a B&O tax. And currently, Ronceverte does not have either of those. So the only, other than property tax coming in as our revenue, and Airbnb taxes, things like that, we don't have a lot of additional revenue coming in. So knowing that Alderson and Lewisburg have instituted that 1% and seeing the funds that they're getting, and from my understanding, a lot of that is from not even really, the businesses will pass it off to, like, let's say the lumber mill would pass it off to their customers. So it's not necessarily all going to affect the citizens of Ronceverte. A lot of that is going to be borne by other people outside of city limits. So that's something that we will consider. We don't have plans to put it on the agenda to do that 1% tax. I think you have to do, if you do home rule, there has to be a reading of an ordinance, and then there has to be a public hearing on it, and then you would vote, have a second reading of the ordinance and would vote on it. And you don't have to institute either of those things, but the home rule allows you some additional flexibility with, like, dilapidated properties and just having a little bit more control over your municipality. So that's something that we are considering, because I do think for fixing roads, sidewalks, grants are great, but you can't rely on that. And especially some of the bigger projects, you need more than just a small local grant to make it happen.
I personally believe that the 1% is a good thing. We haven't seen the other cities that nobody's balked to get against it, so I think it'll be fine. I think we would do just fine with it. I also would want to look into the B&O tax more to see if we could get that generated to help bring money to Ronceverte.
I think the 1% would be it is a good idea in theory, but we don't have a lot of businesses downtown right now that, but it would be some revenue. I think an added thing to that is, she's speaking of the home rule, fines. Fines would be a great thing. I mean, like anybody that breaks ordinances, like I was speaking of earlier, or when people don't mow their yards, I think that's part of the home rule. Lay the fine to them. I had a problem, and they kept giving people a little more time. No, if they're breaking the law, you fine them right there. You don't say, well, maybe. So anyway, yes, that plus fines, that's revenue.
I'm not opposed to the 1% or the B&O tax, but I think before you do it, you should gather local business owners and have a meeting with them and kind of see how it's going to affect them, what kind of revenue you're going to generate from that, if it's going to have a negative or positive effect. It all comes back to them and keeping them in town, first of all. And then, from there, we go from there.
Okay, I've got two more people that would like to ask a question. That's been waiting quite a bit, so.
Hello, my name is Martha Duffett. I am one of the landowners at the bottom of Roncevert Hill, and I'd like to clear up just a few things about the transparency and communications, which follows up with a question. The issue that people who do go to meetings and who have had issues with the city, it's about communication. Dina sits there and says that they're following rules and protocols, which is true, but I mean, for instance, the public meeting that's required to be held, say about the schoolhouse, that was held on a Friday at 10 a.m. Who's going to be able to go to that? And how long before was it announced? It was announced on the city website or on the city Facebook. Like, I grew up in big cities. I grew up on the West Coast, and I've never seen so much city activity on Facebook in my life. When we bought that land, we went to City Hall to ask about permits, about regulations, about ordinances. We were told we'd get communicated with. We went in there about 4 times. We went onto the website because where I'm from, that's what you do. They have 2 websites, and they're not functionable. I mean, they have no information, no ordinances, no laws, no anything that's pertinent to anybody who wants to build, who wants to move here and do things the right way. We were never communicated, which I find crazy because it's such a small town. We moved here because it's not Lewisburg. We moved here because it is a working class town, and we're working class people. We were not contacted by City Hall, by the mayor, and I thought that was nuts because there's only about 5 of us that own property on that hill. The first call we got was from the surveyor telling us they were going to buy the property, okay? That's not communication. And they talk about being open about it and being communicative. No one was open until I put it on Facebook, okay? Then they held a landowner meeting, and at that meeting, we asked Dina what they plan to do, why they want to buy the properties. That is a question that has still not been answered. So I've asked Pam, I've asked every member of city council why they need to own the land to do that project, because it's a government grant. They love to say that. It is. You can look it up. There's certain rules that they have to follow in that grant. Getting people to sell optionally is the best option for them. And that was the first step in their plan when they passed out to the landowners their plan was to acquire properties. Why on earth would that be your first plan? We hear a lot, it's not a beautification project, that's the defense. True, but it's your way to make it a beautification project because it's paid for by the government for water repair. That's how it was relayed to us by, not again, city council or the mayor, but by Dan Withrow, that it looked like crap coming into the city, and with this grant, they will be able to fix it. That's just perhaps a side thing that works out for them, but when you tell a business owner who just moved here, who brought their business here, that's kind of daunting. And the fact that we did have email communication, in-person communication, I've been at 95% of your meetings, I think. And when I finally got an answer, it was nothing. It was, we won't try to come for your land anymore. That was it. That's the only answer I've got. So I still don't know when this project is happening. Leah posted on Facebook that it would take 2 years to finish. We were never told that. We were never told when it would start, when it would finish, how long it would take. And we own that. We would like to build a business there to bring more profit to you. We already pay you taxes. We're a business who started when we moved here, and we're still going. I've seen businesses open and close. I've seen tons open and closed in the time we've been here. Yeah, we've been escorted out of meetings. So the transparency that we're talking about, yes, they follow rules, they read things by title, and then they vote on it. That gives no information. She's given more information sitting up there today than I've ever heard in a meeting, ever. And so when I hear the candidates and I hear them talk about come to meetings and you'll get responses, you'll get answers, that's not true. And I know David Withrow knows, because David Withrow was going for about a year trying to get them to handle something. So I've witnessed that man actually try to work with city council. So they like to say they're not in control of Facebook pages, they're not in control of Facebook groups, but they go on to them and they say what good works they're doing, and nobody can counter that. And when you bring it up at a meeting, they say they're not in charge of Facebook. So like this communication situation is not what it's being laid out to be, not in any way. When you hear David Withrow and Honaker speak about you should come, ask, and you'll get an answer, that's it. That's all we want, baseline. And just on a side note, I'd like the candidates to answer, are you going to allow comments and questions at meetings, or are you just going to allow us to comment? Because at the moment, that's all we're allowed to do. Secondly, I'd just like to know, there was a $60,000 grant given for that walking bridge in 2022. Where did that go?
There was a $100,000 grant, and it went towards a engineering study that Thrasher completed and that we used to submit earmarks for replacement of that bridge.
Well, we never heard that in the meeting. And also, could you answer why you haven't told us you guys need to own the land on the hill to do that project?
That was under the advice of our engineering firm, that in order to replace or not replace, because there is no drainage system under those buildings, that it would be best to remove those buildings and put the drainage system under there.
In the report we were given, it said there is a drainage there. It's just a poorly constructed drainage.
There's an upside-down boxcar
Exactly,
there,
a poorly constructed drainage. When we spoke to the engineer, because we couldn't get answers from anybody in City Hall, he told us it would be a finished lot when it was done. So why would businesses already that are there need to sell off at all? Also, with the kind of grant you guys got for that water project, there's also helpful grants and things you can direct business owners to rebuild somewhere else or to rebuild when you're done.
We tried to do that, and we actually asked Region 4 to provide relocation funds for Hedrick's Custom. We did try that. They said no. We tried repeatedly to do that, and I think that Pam communicated that with Mr. Hedrick.
State your name and who your question's for.
My name is Aaron Withrow. My question's for all the candidates. I was told by the city recorder that the ordinance enforcer, who also left, was there to enforce the city ordinance. That's really hard to find. You have to beg and crawl and get it. Like, I'm beating a dead horse about it, but when I was younger, the city police were the main enforcers. Shouldn't that go back to the city police department? That would save a whole bunch of taxpayer money in Ronsford. My question is, how would you as a mayor enforce these ordinances?
I'm sorry, could you repeat your question? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I heard the whole beginning part, just the end part I didn't hear.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. How as a mayor, how would you enforce these ordinances as they've been failed to in the past?
Well, to answer your first question about the police officers and why have someone else do that, we didn't hire someone specifically. That was someone that was already an employee because in the past couple of years, there's been a shortage in police officers. And most recently, there's been some changes to the rules for applying for state police and things like that make it more desirable for people and easier for people to make that jump to the state police. So we've been working with fewer officers. So that was to have someone that would have the time to go out and give the warnings and then follow up with the ticket for not complying. It definitely, I will say that I think that we need to be better about giving warnings, not listening to, I mean, we've always said that we would work with someone if they needed help, like cleaning up their yard, or if it was an elderly person that needed help getting their yard mowed, things like that. But they have to communicate that to City Hall, let Pam know, and we can work it out. But I think that we've been too lenient on some homeowners, and that's something that, you know, we really need to start enforcing more, and, you know, kind of just letting the sob stories go and say, okay, I understand that, but you need to follow the ordinance. I know that in the,
Okay,
you know,
thank you. Go
Okay,
ahead, Kim.
thanks.
When I worked at the city, the police officers did do the drive-bys, and they would get you for high grass or abandoned cars or whatever. And that is something that I would definitely be on, having the police officers pick that job back up. And yes, the first time you might get a warning, but we're not going to warn you forever. And so those would be things that definitely, just so you understand that, even though the fine is, we'll say $100, the city doesn't get that whole fine. So a lot of people are like, oh, that's revenue that you can get. No, most of that money goes to the state, just so that's clear. But I would definitely have the police officers out there, you know, when they're doing their more rounds and walking the streets and talking to people, I would definitely have them out there writing citations for people that's not keeping up with their, because when I walk 3 to 5 miles a day, think of all the things I see.
I believe first thing we need to do is get a set of ordinances, either on the computer or in hard copy. That's, anytime, I'm not the only one. I've had other people go in and say, okay, what is the ordinance? What is the ordinance? What is the setback? What is, and they can't tell you. We don't know. Or we think it's, like my issue was, they said it's 10 foot back, but there's nothing written. So, you know, we need, in order to enforce ordinances, people need to know what they are. And they need to be in public view. So that's the main thing that you need to do when enforcing ordinances, is make sure people know what they are. So,
Thank you.
Anyway.
Go ahead, Sean.
I agree with David. The ordinance should be posted somewhere, like on a website or something, where you can just go pull them up and look at them. Other cities do that. I don't know why we can't. But as far as just having an officer do it or just a person do it, it's not that simple. I think the officers have all the time have the ability to say something. So if they see something wrong, they can do something about it. But I think you should have a person to go out and give the first warning, and then the officer follow up. But if an officer sees something, he should act on it regardless of whether there's a warning or not. So.
Throughout the night, there's a lot of problems going on in Rossford that needs to be addressed in pretty fast, nice manner.
Absolutely.
I've got time for one more question, and if y'all can keep your response to 1 minute, please.
Hi, again, I'm Eric Mercer. I'm not going to be talking as a candidate, but I've got a question for all of y'all. If a citizen has an issue with people of the city council, how are you guys going to deal with that? And on top of that, are you guys going to be transparent by letting the citizens of Rossford know in writing somehow, besides the newspaper, no offense, of what's going on? Because I know that there's stuff that's put in the newspapers that's not put on Facebook or on the city page that we get ignored about because we don't know nothing about it. So how are you guys going to work with the citizens and giving us information? And then the last thing I want to know why should I vote for you guys for mayor?
Go ahead, Dana. Go ahead, Dana.
I'll go first.
Thank you, Kim.
I like to go first. So, yes, as I spoke earlier, I would have in your water bill once a month, that's when you get your water bill, a newsletter of things that's coming up, things that, you know, we've dealt with or working with, as well as the city employee in that newsletter. So that would be one thing that I would do to help get the information out there. Of course, social media is good to use for that kind of stuff as well, but I wouldn't just choose just social media, because I understand that older folks do not do social media. Why should I be your mayor? I have been in this community. I've worked with city before, so I have an understanding of how the city works, okay? I also have lived here all my life. I am a go-getter. I am a passionate person. I am the person that will
Your
not
time is
rest.
up.
Thanks, Kim.
Candidate Honaker.
No, transparency, I think you should have as far as the minutes go, I think that you should be able to walk into City Hall and get a copy of the notes and the minutes from the last meeting. That way you can see everything that's said and happens. I think it should be publicly accessible on the website or in person at City Hall, always. And as far as me for mayor, I've been in the area for 20 years. I've ran a business in this area for 20 plus years. I work with multiple municipalities throughout the area, Greenbrier County and Monroe County, other areas, police department, city halls. I was on council for years. I know how it works, and I just like to see some change in this area, in this town.
Transparency, I think, is because we need a web page, a real web page for the city of Ronceverte, where you can actually ask questions if you want. That's just an idea I've got. And also, like they're saying, with a daily news or with a newsletter for other people who don't do internet. And why should you vote for me for mayor? Well, because I do care. I've been here since 1994, 31 years. I've lived here, worked here, and I care about people, and I care about Ronceverte. And I don't know any other reason, just because, Ronceverte's a good place.
I think that as far as when a citizen has an issue with a council member, if it's a personal issue, it should be handled personally, and the city should not be involved. As far as why I think that I deserve your vote, I've been on city council since 2018. I've poured my heart and soul into serving. I've volunteered on multiple organizations in addition to being mayor. I've wrote grants, I've picked up trash, and not just when the cameras are around. My husband and I will go out and randomly pick up trash on a Sunday because we love Ronceverte, we have kids here, we want them to have the best opportunities that they can have. I think that I have a good working relationship with city council, and I have the best city administrator there is. We've been able to work so well together and make so many positive changes in the last 4 years, but
Your time
we're just
is up.
starting. Thank you.
If everyone could give these candidates a round of applause, they did a great job this evening. This will conclude the West Virginia Daily News Ronceverte Mayor and Council Forum. Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. Have a good evening.